going, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, I wanted to discuss one of the reasons why your offensive linemen are failing very miserably within pass blocking and run blocking situations within CFB 26. And don't get me wrong, the blocking schemes within this game are not working very well, and there are obviously times where things are just straight up glitched out because players are not blocking somebody that's directly in front of them, and things are just not working appropriately with gameplay within CFB 26, at least not consistently enough the way that it should be working. But there is one thing that is the single most important factor, and there's a second one I want to talk about as well. But there is one thing that is the single most important factor that you can actually influence and upgrade on your players that determines whether your players even find the right guy to block to begin with. And this is actually a epidemic across the roster within CFB 26, and more evidence as to why the EA devs might not quite understand their relationship between player ratings and how the game actually plays. And that is player awareness across your offensive line. There are so many high-end offensive linemen, as well as just general starters that are reasonable overalls, that have completely inserviceable awareness numbers. And when we talk about serviceable and consistent and effective, and those are all different things, awareness numbers, we're not talking about 63. We're not even talking about 72. The base requirement for awareness for an offensive lineman to appropriately pick up their blocks more often than not is 75 awareness. And you'll notice here with LSU, we have a 63, a 72, and a 63. So all three of these left tackles should never start a game for this team, because they will not ever consistently in any way, shape, or form pick up their blocking assignments, regardless of their pass block power, their run block power, run block finesse, lead block, impact block, their physicals, any of that stuff. Just getting to the correct player to block in the first place requires around 75 awareness. Now, way more here might be a little bit more successful than the other guys, but 63, I would truthfully never expect this guy to even get on to the correct guy 50% of the time. Likewise, when we look at some of our other positions, they're just super low. 79 awareness for my left guard is rather serviceable. 69, not serviceable at all. When we take a look at our centers, I mentioned this in the other video, we do have two pretty high awareness centers, and these are both players that I should probably try to start because of that high awareness. Now, what does this mean? And I'll take a look at more offensive linemen as well to show you the same thing. But essentially what this means is the ratings guys over at EA CFB are overinflating players' overalls by propping up their strength numbers, by propping up their pass block finesse, their pass block power, their run block power, run block finesse, lead block, impact block, whatever it might be, whatever combination there is there. They are propping up players' overalls with the wrong ratings. If you want a consistent offensive lineman, they should have around 80 awareness. And that's a base level of consistency. If you want effective offensive linemen, that means more often than not, they are doing the correct thing. You want 85 plus awareness. If you want an elite offensive lineman that is actually going to play like an elite offensive lineman, you need 90 to 95 plus awareness. And you're not going to see that very often. When we take a look at our right guards, we have a 75 awareness and an 85 awareness. This is a really good example here with this 85 awareness right guard, where his ratings are going to be a lot lower. You can see his run block numbers are super low, his run block power, run block finesse, all that stuff. And that is leading to a diminished overall in comparison. And so this guy's not going to be effective. And that leads me to my second point. And we'll come back and talk about awareness even more and look at even more players. As you can see, my right tackle, I have a guy starting out with 44 awareness. And you might think a freshman, redshirt, 70 overall impact dev player might actually contribute to your team one day. This guy is most likely never going to get to a point where he should be playing for your team or would be serviceable for your team unless he gets a ton of upgrade points. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage these things. But again, I wanted to talk a little bit about the second issue, which is not quite as important, but is still very important, which is the general idea that players are super unbalanced within this game. And I get what they're going for. as far as players being unbalanced within this game, and it is a little bit realistic to real life, but not when it is as big of a difference as it is with a lot of linemen in this game. And you'll take a look at 73 overall right guard, who you might think, oh, based on what I was talking about before, I should potentially start that guy because he has 85 awareness. Well, when you see he has 64 run block, 51 run block power, and 66 run block finesse, again, that guy should never be starting for you. And here's why. The thing that is a problem with the blocking in this game for a lot of people is that you probably don't have the most detailed knowledge of every single one of your offensive linemen and exactly what each one of those offensive linemen is good at. And so on any given play, if I wasn't really paying attention and Bo Borderland went in at right guard, or maybe he's a backup at another position as well, and he got destroyed in the running game, or a player just ran right by him in the running game and he never picked him up, I might be blaming the game, I might be angry, whatever it might be, but it is very obvious that this guy simply cannot run block, and he isn't even close to a serviceable run blocking player. And that's the issue that comes into play, is that on any given play, you might have two offensive linemen that can actually do what you're asking them to do, but you probably have two or three offensive linemen they cannot do what you're asking them to do. My starting left tackle, who you would think that I should be able to start at this point. Great pass blocker, sure, but on any given running play, he ain't it. 67, 63, 76. That guy's never going to be even close to consistent in the run blocking game. And then 63 awareness, right? I potentially have two starting offensive linemen that are below 80 awareness, three offensive linemen that are below 80 awareness. So on any given play, I potentially have three offensive linemen that are simply just going to miss blocks and let guys run right past them because they're not even at the base threshold of awareness to pick up a blitzing or defensive lineman player on any given play. And so really there are two factors there working in combination that are creating more issues for you, because the ratings here are way more wonky than they even were last year. And those two things working in conjunction are creating more issues for you than you would realize. And like I said, don't get me wrong, the gameplay is not the best here. The pass blocking and run blocking system is not the best. They're not necessarily working the way that they should, or the way that blocking systems should work, but it is exacerbated. It is made worse by the fact that you have these severely unbalanced players that I'm sure not everybody is 100% aware all the time of what every single offensive lineman can do for them, and by the fact that these players have awareness that is significantly lower than even serviceable level awareness. A 64 awareness player is going to miss a guy that's right in front of him a lot of the time, like way more often than you might realize. And that's simply based on the fact that they basically can't see what's in front of their face. They have no idea what is going on. But what I do want to say is that there is some workaround for this. Now, you have to keep in mind that upgrades for these players are very slow, especially on the offensive line, and this is why we talk about having the much higher XP sliders. But if I wanted to upgrade some of these players, it is actually very quick to be able to upgrade these major issues, and specifically IQ. Oftentimes, especially for the players that have awareness within the 60s, it's going to cost like 1 or 2 points to upgrade their IQ point. Now, whenever they get up here into the 70s, it costs a little bit more, of course. And then you run into skill cap issues where, even if I upgraded way more here, he's probably never going to get to those serviceable thresholds that I was talking about as far as awareness is concerned, unfortunately. But if I take a look at my star left tackle, who's a 76 overall, and what it might take to upgrade his IQ, yeah, it only takes 2 points to upgrade it, and his skill caps are a lot less significant in that category. And so if I saved up his points and got enough upgrade points and invested them into the right place, I could make this guy a much more consistent blocker for me in both aspects of the game without ever even necessarily touching his run blocking and pass blocking ratings. Don't get me wrong, his run blocking ratings are really low, but when you have a severely unbalanced player like that, it's generally going to be pretty cheap to upgrade the unbalanced parts. And this is another point advocating for manually upgrading your players, because if you don't don't manually upgrade your players, tough luck. I mean, you're never going to get those awareness upgrades. You're never going to get those balanced upgrades to help that player actually be serviceable on both sides of your offense. I'm just bringing you the information that there are ways that you can influence this and make it so that you can actually improve what's going on with your team and give yourself a chance to have more consistent offensive line play. Again, do I agree with what's going on here as far as these ratings are concerned? But no, I mean, is it easy to get 1 skill point for Bo Borderland? Yeah, probably, and I can get better run blocking, and I can do that multiple times and balance him out a bit. But again, this also lends itself to the idea of why is there an XP penalty potentially for manually upgrading your players? Because if you auto upgrade, these things are never going to get balanced out. I get it. There's a give and a take there. They're trying to do certain things, but ultimately what they're doing ratings wise here is not jiving with what actually happens gameplay wise. And so you're getting a lot of negative results, like we talked about, with some things potentially going on with other positions as well, but mainly with the offensive line, because they are highly dependent on their awareness rating to simply put their hands on the correct player on any given play. And so again, you might look at certain high-end players and wonder why they're not playing as consistently as they should. Well, look no further than 83 overall right tackle Nolan Rucci, who only has 83 awareness, Bubba Rogers, who has 82 awareness. We can go down to 83 overall with 79 awareness, 81 overall with 76 awareness, and it gets worse as you go down, a 79 with 74 awareness. There are some really, really bad ones going on here, and there are some really bad discrepancies between run blocking and pass blocking here. You might wonder why your 92 overall right tackle for Duke is not super consistent as a player. Well, he's going to be good pass blocking for you, and don't get me wrong, the blocking in this game might still be broken, and he might still let up sacks a little bit more often than he should, but you should never rely on this guy in the run game. 79, 76, and 82, he's simply going to be a less than 50% of the time winning his block type of a player. That's just the reality of what it is, because you have a 92 overall player that simply has no idea how to run block, and that's where a lot of frustration can come in. And I'm not saying that you guys need to go in and know every single detail about every single one of your offensive linemen, but you should consider it when you're setting your depth chart, and you definitely should be putting the time in to upgrade and balance them out. If Brian Parker here ever got any upgrade points, there's literally no point into me putting them into anything else except for his run blocking. He is great at everything else. He is above serviceable. He is excellent in most categories. 90 awareness, 90 plus in all pass block categories. There would be no reason for me to spend upgrade points on this guy on anything other than his run blocking capabilities, unless I wanted to spend them on maybe an ability or something. But even then, I would be striving first and foremost to get him 80 plus in all of these ratings. And so that's it. That's what I had for you guys in today's video. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Again, here's another few examples of really highly rated players with lower than expected awareness ratings and those types of things that would be potentially causing some issues for your teams. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Have you guys picked up on the fact that awareness is causing some issues for your offensive line? And the other thing is, what teams are you guys playing as? Because for 90% of the teams within this game, you're not going to be even playing with 80 overall plus linemen, at least not across your offensive line. I mean, even, we were taking a look at LSU, who I was playing as, and we barely had a couple of 80s across the line. We had to start some mid-70s players, and those are often the players that really suffer. And, when players get generated and recruited, it also is way different than what you see here. I mean, a lot of players have a hard time getting up to those high overalls that I was just showing you a moment ago, simply because of the way that things upgrade within this game. But yeah, so leave those comments down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on this discussion topic? What do you guys think about offensive line play? Do you think that you can fix some of those things through ratings as I've suggested, or do you guys just feel that blocking is super inconsistent and broken in this game, and it's going to take patches to really do the work that needs to be done? Let me know what you guys think. Leave a like on the video. Please subscribe if you guys have not already. And as always, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.